In this video, I'll show you how to change backgrounds in Affinity. Let's get started. If you'd like to follow along with me, I've left a download link to the photos that I'll be using in the video description. To change the background, first we need to make a selection of our subject. I'll use the Object Selection tool to do this. I'll hover over our model, and then I'll click to make my selection. I also want to refine her hair, so up in the context toolbar, I'll click on Refine. And then I'll paint over the edges of her hair to refine these areas. I'll press Apply. Then I'll add a mask. And I'll deselect with Command or Control D. Now that the model is all cut out, we can double check that our edges have been selected properly. I think most of the hair looks pretty good, but this area looks a little bit smudgy. I can also see that this area is a little smudgy, so let's start by fixing that. With the mask layer selected, I'll grab the paintbrush, and then so that I can softly paint over these areas, I'm going to lower the hardness of my paintbrush all the way to 0%, and then I'll lower the flow so that I can paint with just a little bit of paint on my paintbrush. Then, to make my paintbrush smaller, I'll use the bracket keys on my keyboard so that I can paint with a very small brush to break up this smudginess. Once the smudginess has been broken up, I'm going to switch my paint color to white, but I'll make sure to make this 100% white. And then we can paint to add hair back in. Whenever you're painting on your mask, white will add to your mask, while black will remove from your mask. So you can see painting in white, we're just adding hairs back in. And I think this area looks a lot better. We can also do this down here, painting in white paint to add hairs back into this area. I'll make the hair a little more dense, closer to her arm. And then I'll feather the hair out, making it thinner on the outside. Okay, that looks pretty good for her hair. Now I just want to fix any other weird areas, and I want a more intense brush for this. So I'm going to set my settings back to 80% hardness and 100% flow. Then with a larger brush, I can paint in white paint to add to our mask wherever it needs it. And then I can switch to black paint by pressing X on my keyboard. And I'll just paint in black to remove. Wherever you need a softer edge, you can always lower the hardness of your brush even more. You can even bring it to 0%. And then you can soften things up. In this area, we have a very hard line here. So I think the lower hardness and even a low flow can help us blend this in. I'll switch my color to white, and I'll softly paint over this area. That looks better. Okay, with that finished, I think our mask looks really good. So now we can bring this photo into our new background. I'll select the entire photo layer, and I'll press Command or Control C to copy. Then I'll go to our background layer, and I'll press Command or Control V to paste this in. Now, using the Move tool, we can adjust how our subject is positioned in her new background. I think this looks pretty good, but now that our model is in this new background, you may notice some things. First, you can see a little bit of blue haloing right here on her back, and we can clean that up by selecting the mask layer and then grabbing the paintbrush. And we can paint in black paint with full flow and 80% hardness right along that edge. There's also a little bit of a glitch in Affinity where you might see a white line on this edge. This is the edge of our mask layer, and we can just paint in black paint over this to remove it. I think I got all of it, but you can always double check this by holding Alt or Option and clicking on this mask layer. Then you can just paint in black all along this edge. I'll just do this on both sides to fully remove that. Then hold Alt or Option and click on the mask layer again, and you can see we don't have those white lines anymore. So now that our subject is in place on this new background, I just wanted to explain why I chose this new background. So first, let's talk about the lighting. The original photo had a very warm golden hour look. It's very sunshiny on her face. And you can see our new background is also very sunshiny and golden. So I think that similarity really helps to make this new background realistic. The camera angle is also similar. You can see the horizon line is very low on our subject. And in this new background, the horizon is also very low. As an added bonus, this photo also has a shadow right here, and it looks like the shadow is coming from our subject, which is really nice. My guess is that the camera person taking this background photo is casting this shadow, but it works really well for our model. Now, while this new background looks really good with the lighting and the camera angle, I do want to make some adjustments to the colors in the background. So let's work on that, matching the new background to our subject. First, I'm going to go to our adjustments, and I'll apply the color balance adjustment. I don't want this to affect the entire photo. I only want to affect the background. So I'm going to click and drag to place this layer so that it's sitting on top of our background layer. Now, our subject's photo has a lot of warmth. You can see a lot of reds and yellows in her skin, and it's very saturated. So I want to add some of these red and yellow colors into the background. Let's start in the shadows. I'll add a bit of red. But you don't want to push this too far, or your shadows will start to look pretty strange. So I'll just add a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow. Then I'll go to the midtones. And again, I'll apply some red. I think I'll even add a little bit of magenta, since we have some magenta colors here. And I'll add some yellow. And last, we can go to the highlights, and we can add some red and some yellow. I think the tints of these colors look pretty good, but the background might be too saturated now. So I'm going to add an HSL adjustment. And then I'll lower the saturation to reduce that. Using the HSL adjustment, we can also add a little bit more redness by moving the hue slider. I'm going to bring it up a little to add some redness. Just a little bit. Okay, with that done, I'm going to hold Shift to select both of these color layers so that you can see the before and after. I think these colors look a lot better with our model. Next, I want to make sure the lighting is perfect. You can see the lighting is very similar, but the shadows on our subject are very dark, and I don't see very dark shadows in the background. So to fix this, I'm going to add a curves adjustment, and then I'll darken it. You can see those deeper shadows on our subject are now reflected in the background. Okay, we're almost done. I just want to add a bit of a blur into the background. The original photo didn't have a person standing there, so you can see this background area is very focused. But I want the focus to be on our subject. So let's add a blur. I'll go to our filters, and I'll apply the Gaussian blur filter. I'll raise this up, and you can see the edges become transparent as I do this. So I'll check on preserve alpha. That's better. And now we can go ahead and raise this quite a bit to add that blur. Now, I don't want the entire background to be blurred the same amount. It should be less blurry up here and become more blurry as we get farther away from our subject. So to do that, I'm going to grab the gradient tool. I'm going to click and drag starting from about here, and I'll bring this forward. Wherever the gradient is white, the blur will be fully applied, and wherever it's black, it will not be applied. With that finished, now you can see the before and after of adding in this blur, before and after. And just to finish, I'll show you all the adjustments we made to the background. Here's the complete before and after of making these two photos blend together. And with that, now you know how to change backgrounds in Affinity. If you enjoyed this video, I'll leave a link in the video description to my free Affinity course. In the course, you'll learn 10 simple steps to make any photo amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Affinity Revolution tutorial.